Welcome to this video. My name is Bruce Oliver Newsome, and these are the lectures on the Tiger tank. And in this lecture, we're going to answer the question, why did British intelligence fail to predict the Tiger tank? Now, everybody knows about the Tiger tank by 1943, the spring, and that's because the Germans themselves publicized it. And you're looking at some good evidence. So here is a front cover of Signal magazine. Actually, this is the English language edition for May of 1943. This magazine was published in multiple languages every month. And the May 1943 edition featured the Tiger tank on its cover. And other magazines and newspapers had been publicizing the Tiger since March of 1943. And why March of 1943? This is less than a couple months after both the Soviets and the British, on different fronts, had captured examples of Tiger tanks. The Tiger tank was a shock to all of the Allies. It was a major step change in capabilities on anything they had, and they had no idea that it was coming. So now the puzzle is, why did it take 17 years for the British to discover the heavy Panzer programs? Because the Germans had been developing heavy programs since 1926, and here's the first example. It's the Grosstraktor. It's code for big tractor, and it's essentially a proof of industrial capacity. So 3 examples of this vehicle were built in slightly different variants by 3 respective firms in mild steel. So they are proofs of industrial capacity. They're also proofs that Germany can acquire tanks in secret without foreign governments hearing about it. Because at this time, Germany is prohibited from tanks by the peace treaty that's signed at Versailles in 1919. The Germans have experimented with some lighter vehicles, and they get some Soviet help with this. But this is the first of the heavy programs. And the Germans go on to develop other vehicles in light weights, and they acquire some as weapons. But there are no more heavy programs until 1933, and that's when the Nazis come into power and they order a new heavy tank. And that's delivered quickly in its first variant in 1934. So this is the Neubaufahrzeug, the new built vehicle. And 2 of this variant, the Neubaufahrzeug 5, 2 of those are built by Rheinmetall in 1934 in mild steel. So again, these are essentially proofs of acquisition, the industrial capacity, the design, and the secrecy. And in 1936, 3 more vehicles are delivered by Krupp, and these are delivered in armor. So these are viable weapons. And again, like the Grosstraktor, the Neubaufahrzeug is not discovered by foreign governments until, as this photograph shows, it's actually exhibited by the Germans in public in early 1939. So meanwhile, the Germans are developing more heavy tanks. In 1938, they initiate the VK30.01. VK is short for Versuchskonstruktion, or experimental assembly. The 30 refers to the specified weight, 30 metric tons, and the 01 is the project number. And this takes a categorical name, or it fulfills a categorical requirement for a breakthrough tank, which is named Durchbruchwagen, or DW for short. And this first project is abbreviated to DW1. And it's given to Henschel, and Henschel deliver this particular vehicle. Now, we don't know everything about the program, because the documents were destroyed during the war, most of them deliberately. What we do know is from interrogation of the principals who were captured at the end of the war, and it's actually the British who have privileged access to these principals, and they discover that this program was initiated in 1937, and Henschel is tasked with delivering 2 examples, of which one is certainly completed in 1938, and then it's overtaken by a new program, and this vehicle gets reutilized as a driver training tank, and it's captured, as shown in this photograph, by the British in 1938. What happens after that, we don't know. Meanwhile, the Germans have instigated a new project, the DW2. So this starts in late 1939. It's a slightly simplified design with a newer engine, and Hensch will deliver an example in 1940. It's also known as the Kleiner Tiger or the Small Tiger. So already there are several programs working towards an eventual Tiger tank, and they're all known as Tiger programs. Now in spring of 1940, 3 hulls, DW2 hulls, are supposedly delivered, according to the interrogation reports gathered after the war. And one of these survives as repurposed as a recovery vehicle, and that's what this photograph shows. And that is captured again by the British at the end of the war. Now in 1941, 4 more hulls in the DW2 program are delivered. Now they are converted, they're lengthened, the hulls are lengthened, and then they're converted to self-propelled 128mm guns. And those are delivered in 1942, and they go to serve on the Soviet front. The Allies don't realize that these vehicles are part of a Tiger program, and they actually don't even connect that platform to the previous DWs that they have captured at the end of the war. Now in June, July of 1939, there are some parallel programs. These have heavier weights, so they're known as VK-36 and VK-45. And they're parallel. There are several programs working towards an eventual Tiger tank. They have more armor, bigger guns. In 1941, the VK-45 is instigated. And this is to carry a turret by Krupp. And you're looking at essentially the final design. The hull by Henschel, the turret by Krupp. And the turret is built around the 88mm L56 gun. And it's eventually produced in 1942 and deployed very quickly as the Tiger tank. So part of this puzzle is to understand how so many firms could be involved in so many programs, all known as the Tiger tank, and yet no foreign government of interest actually discovers them.